God's own name, let's eat together. In God's own name, please come in peace. See how our children play together, while you and me, we stand alone. I know we'll never be.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another That Album. And I'm joined by the lovely Helen Rea today.
There
My
you
sister, by the look of it.
go. Sister or husband?
Yeah, you just look so chilled when that was playing.
Listen, this is a sublime album for me, I must admit. And it might seem like an odd choice for some, because I'm aware that the theme line would be taking, albums that are right up there on the top, both in the US and in England. But I think there's a lot of content in this album, and also at the time that it came out in 1992. But I suppose the question I would ask there is, for each of us, where were we in 1992?
Well, yes, it's funny you should say that, isn't it? It's funny you should say that. So I did a bit of research, and obviously, there are albums that we've covered on the show from the 50s and the 60s, and it's a long time ago, and we were all little in those days, or not even born. But I remember 1992 really, really well. So UK was in recession. Bank of Credit and Commerce International went under. We signed the Maastricht Treaty. The Saatchi Gallery opened its doors, and the Brit Art movement was born, with things like Damien Hirst's Shark in Formaldehyde.
Yes.
Nigel Mansell won the F1 World Championship. Black Wednesday. Women were allowed to become priests in the Church of England, and Princess Anne and Mark Phillips got divorced. Andrew and Sarah Ferguson got divorced, and Charles and Diana separated. So not a good year for. Some interesting births. Daisy Ridley, who in Star Wars, the new ones. Sam Smith. Laura Trott, the cyclist, was born. On less interesting births, Cara Delevingne was born. It's a bad year for deaths. Frankie Howard died. Benny Hill died. Robert Morley died. Geraint Evans died. Francis Bacon died. But good year for films. A Few Good Men, Unforgiven, Passenger 57, Final Analysis, Batman Returns, Patriot Games, Under Siege, The Lawnmower Man, The Bodyguard, Glengarry Glen Ross. Good year for albums. Automatic for the People, Dirt, Little Earthquakes, Love Deluxe, Diva, Annie Lennox, Rage Against the Machine. An interesting year for books as well. Mostly Harmless. Douglas Adams came out.
Wow.
And Dolores Claiborne and another Stephen King. Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus, and The Expose of Diana all were published that year. And it seems like only yesterday, doesn't it? Over 30 years ago. It seems like only yesterday.
Well, it does seem like only yesterday. I mean, 30 years ago. Let's not go there, because with that first track that you just played, it actually brings me even further back to the 70s. And so,
Yeah.
Yes, 1992.
So why this album? Why this album? Because Chris Rea, an interesting choice. Everybody knows some of his stuff. Everyone knows Road to Hell, and what was the one that followed that? I forget the name of the album that followed that. Auberge.
Auberge is a beauty as well, I have to say. Yeah.
So why this album? Because I put this on and I was like, I don't know any of the tracks on this.
No, but the influences, for me, it's a deeply personal album. And it's personal because of the influences that this album brings together in terms of people that I've come to. I mean, Muddy Waters, for example. If we start off with Muddy Waters, the Allman Brothers.
Yeah.
More importantly, though, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and the big one for me is Roy Cooder, and then Little Feat. And this album brings all of the company of amazing musicians and a beat and a sound. And the thing I like about this particular album is that as we go through each of the tracks, each one actually pays homage to a particular influence that I hear because it's so personal.
Well, I would be really interested to hear you talk about those things. So I mean, everybody. So here's an interesting thing about him. Driving Home for Christmas, his Christmas song. Every December, he earns £200,000 from Driving Home for Christmas. Nice work if you can get it, eh?
Nice work if you can get it, but I'm a little bit of a dampener on that one because he, put it this way, he doesn't dress up to meet, to be interviewed. You know, what you see is what you get. You get an honest bloke. He's not behind the door in making, he's an honest bloke. But apparently, that was the single 1988, which was Driving Home for Christmas. For him, in an interview that he did, he said it was an example of what streaming and illegal downloading has actually done to the prospects of future big names in the industry. And so there he looks already and says, you know, I mean, he's a very sick man in terms of his health. But he's a trooper, and as I say, he's an honest guy. Another quote. This is from classic rock, Henry Yates. I don't know if you know, but in December 2015, the quote is, "Chris Rea is the world's most reluctant rock star."
Yeah, I can kind of see that, and so a friend of mine is quite a senior consultant at one of the London hospitals, and he was the one that diagnosed Chris Rea's first bout of cancer.
Yeah.
And it was caught quite early, so he was able to be treated for it. And as a thank you, Chris Rea gave my mate one of his guitars and said, "Here, this is a little something for you," because my mate's a really good keen guitarist like me. So and I just thought, that's really nice. So I mean, it is interesting. I mean, so reading about his childhood, you know, he was born in 1951, one of 7 children. He originally played or primarily bottleneck guitar.
Yes,
because he liked the sound of that. It says his style was inspired by Charlie Patton, whom he heard on the radio. He'd originally thought Patton's playing sounded like a violin. Obviously, a man after my own heart. He was also influenced by all the people you said, Blind Willie Johnson as well, and Sister Rosetta Thorpe, and Ry Cooder, and Joe Walsh, who I'm a big fan of as well. He said he commented that at the time he was meant to be developing my father's. I was meant to be developing my father's ice cream cafe into a global concern, but I spent all my time in the stockroom playing slide guitar, which is kind of really nice, isn't it?
he was in his early 20s at that stage, you know.
Yeah, because he didn't get his guitar until he was 12, did he? Oh no, in his early sorry, yeah.
This, unlike so many that we've talked about or listened to over the weeks, he started in his early 20s, but there must be in within his soul, it was there just waiting to be, and the guitar. I mean, he's supremely good, supremely talented.
He is very good. So I'm with you there. I was not a fan. We'll see whether I am a fan now. What is really interesting, and you said about him being an honest guy.
Yeah.
What I think is really interesting is that you get through lots of the lyrics, you get insights into what things matter to him. So obviously he writes quite a lot about his health issues that he's had. He's a very keen driver. He's very into motorsports. Um, he's a fan of historic motor racing. He races a Ferrari Dino and a Ferrari 328 and a 1955 Lotus 6. He participated in the 1993 British Touring Car Championships. He's also taken the opportunity to get involved in Formula One. And on a few occasions, he's been in the pit lane as a mechanic for the Jordan team, including at the 1995 Monaco Grand Prix. And there were lots and lots of car references when
Yeah,
you know.
even on this album, you'll have the song
Yeah,
that's coming up, you know, soft top, hard shoulder.
yeah, absolutely. So should we have a little bit of the first
Yeah,
track?
let's do it.
Nothing to fear.
Yeah, this is the sound.
I think before we listen to any more, I think it's worth saying.
9 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like a proper intro to a song, doesn't it?
Oh,
You know,
this
it's like and a great start to the album. Yeah, do you know? Funny you should say that, Adam. Spaghetti Western, because one of the tracks here that was released as a single, the video for it was filmed in Morocco, wasn't it? And I think it's got that kind of Moroccan desert feel to it, hasn't it?
yeah, but it actually, if you look, and there's, I think if you look at the video clip, if you like, looking at Morocco, you're also, for me, things happening on the world stage, and then, you know, looking at countries like Morocco and the there's a very emotive layer there, and I think on the world stage and world politics, it actually brings some of that to me anyway. It speaks to me of relevance now. In fact,
Yeah, I would agree. I would
Yeah.
agree. So. The intro is very soothing, isn't it?
sublime. It's sublime.
And it's funny because I've never until this last week when I've been listening to this, I've never really rated him as a guitarist particularly. But
Way up there.
yeah, he's a very, very accomplished slide player. Very, very accomplished. I'm genuinely impressed by this. So let's whiz it forward a little bit.
Yeah, because it is 9 minutes.
I see
Sorry.
It is 9 minutes and 6 seconds long.
It is, yeah, we're not going to listen to all of it.
your sun is clear. You got to show me. Got to show me. There's nothing to fear. Nothing to fear.
So it's funny you should say that, Andrew, because one of the earlier on today, I caught a glimpse of Billy Joel being interviewed,
Wow.
and somebody had said to him about how come you're so successful, and you're so, and he said, I'm okay at writing songs, and I'm okay at writing lyrics. He said, I'm not Shakespeare, but I'm okay at writing lyrics, and I can play the piano okay, and I can record okay, and I understand how to work with musicians. I'm kind of okay at that. He said, I'm competent at all of these things, and he said, so my take on this is that so many people out there are incompetent, that the fact that I'm competent at these things makes me look like I'm much better than I really am.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting because yeah, it's amazing how many of these people are truly phenomenal
Yeah.
musicians, which I find thoroughly depressing because I was going to retire and become a traveling musician, but clearly that ain't going to happen.
A troubadour. A troubadour.
Yes, absolutely. So I mean, I think this is a great start to the album. I love the extended intro. I love the fact that it sets the scene. It's quite a kind of laconic, relaxed.
Yeah. Friday afternoon, 4 to 5 o'clock, perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. It's well suited to this time when we're sort of winding down to the weekend. Yeah, it's a great intro to the album. I think that one of the things that I found with this album is that, we'll talk about it as we go through the album, but a good start.
Good. This is a journey now. This whole album is about a journey.
Yeah. Well, the next one, Miles is a Cigarette.
This is one of my 2 favorites on the album.
Yeah, well, I love the fact that he says in this song, "The sound of those Italian engines,"
Yes.
referencing his love of cars again.
Cars, yeah.
The weak and hazy shades of winter sun come shining through, lifting the fog from the trees, and a gentle warm breeze send it up to the blue. It's goodbye, and I love smoking too, and the sound of those Italian engines is more the sound of you. Yeah, it's kind of it's nice stuff, isn't it?
He writes beautifully. He really does. Well, that's me anyway. Speaks to me.
Yeah, and I think that we see 2 distinct camps. If you look back over all the albums, there's some people that are able to write where the music and the words work perfectly together.
Yeah.
And some aren't. Some where there's a certain amount of contrived nature to get the words in. He is not involved.
No.
Absolutely, he's and I've started watching the Beatles documentary Get Back again.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I find amazing about that is that they went into the studio and they had 2 weeks to write and rehearse 14 songs.
Mm-hmm.
And they went in there and there's like one of them's playing this thing and it's going to go like this. And they're just basically singing gibberish along to it until they land on and it's like, and the 2 dovetail perfectly together. And it's like, no, that's not the right, Jojo left his home in Tucson. It was Tucson. Arizona. Yeah, that works. And they go kind of gradually building it as they go. And I get the impression that he's done the same thing. He's kind of got this sound that he's producing, and then he's working out, here's the story I want to tell, and the lyrics, what lyrics are going to work. And it's a very relaxed way of delivery, isn't it?
Yeah. To say it's for me, it's an honest delivery, but a very talented one.
So here we go. Miles is a Cigarette.
Miles Davis, of course. And Miles, as in the road.
Yeah.
But it's Miles Davis for me anyway.
The weak and hazy shades of winter sun comes shining through. Lifting far from the trees, and a gentle warm breeze sends it up into the blue. Blue sky, and you come creeping through.
And that's Chris Rea on the Late Night Show. You know,
The old grey whistle test.
yeah, you know, it definitely has that late night feel to it, doesn't it?
Yeah. But I mean, that's think of the influences, and I don't know how many people remember the old grey whistle test.
I remember some of it.
Yeah.
And I remember
this is what he's bringing with him, you know.
Yeah, it's
authenticity.
It's a great shame it's gone, isn't it? The old
It
grey
is,
whistle test, because it was your one opportunity to hear music that wasn't quite so mainstream, and see really talented people. Well, in most cases. So yeah, I mean that's a good, very very late night. It does feel like we should be starting this show at midnight tonight, doesn't it? With this music.
Yeah, except it will change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So that brings us on.
It's a journey. It's a journey.
Yeah, that brings us on to welcome to the old grey whistle. So it brings us on to the title track, God's Great Banana Skin. I really like this. I mean, I thought that I didn't see any parallels in here to kind of other artists, and you'll probably put me straight on that. But I love the fact that this was the story about not getting too big for your boots, wasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. But it's again the guitar opening, again the beat, and then all of a sudden, this is where I get up and start dancing. I won't do it now, but
go on. So
well, it's coming.
So here we go. Yeah, I mean it's tremendous. So The Guardian wrote about this album: in the snug world of centrally heated adult rock, Chris Rea offers a reminder that he plays a handy slide guitar and creates chunky chordscapes which perfectly complement the gravelly rasp of his voice, which just sums it up perfectly.
It was a single as well, as far as I know.
Sorry?
This was released as a single as well. I'm not sure it's the best one on the album to do, but nevertheless.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the thing that is good about this as a single is that it's catchy and more upbeat. You
Yeah,
know, lots of the slow, slidey ones. It's like,
yeah,
there's nothing for people to kind of bop along to in those.
yeah,
Um, I think it a bit unfair. All Music rated this album 3 stars out of 5, and
yeah. Three
the
and a bit.
and the Calgary Herald gave it a C plus. It's a bit
Yeah,
unfair, isn't it?
like your exam time, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. But a nice. Do you know it's really funny you should say that about Jimmy Nail,
Yeah,
because I made that comparison later on with another track where I thought that's very Jimmy Nail like. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so this has been I love Helen rocking out to it there. Yeah, um, it's
Friday
it,
afternoon, guys.
yeah, absolutely. Brings us on to 90s Blue. And I thought one line in here, "Put my marriage on the rock," is really interesting because he has been married to Joan Leslie. Well, he met her when they were 17,
Yeah,
and they've been together ever since. And he's now, what, 72, 73? So they've had a pretty good run, haven't they?
absolutely, absolutely.
And,
Yeah,
and this I thought was interesting because it's got that kind of slow shuffle blues feel to it, Clapton like. So yes, good point there, Andrew. But also this is the first time that he's used, or first time that he's obviously used like major orchestration on the track,
right.
isn't it?
I mean, that's a piece that sets this apart from any of the other tracks on the album, and I just love it. It's both a guitar celebration, but it's enhanced with the orchestral background, and it does for me personally. Again, I hands up. It is a very personal choice, right? But for me, it transports this particular one transports to another level once I'm listening to it. But I always am grounded by one line in it saying, "The fat man took my money."
Yeah,
It speaks, you know, again, the fat man, yeah, 1992, didn't you mention, you know,
yeah.
financial issues? Anyway, I'll stop talking because the
No,
music.
don't stop talking. That's the whole point of this. But yeah, I mean, I thought that the impression I got from this was that this was an altogether more serious piece of music.
Mhm.
So whilst and in fact, all of his stuff is beautifully produced and very polished. A lot of it is like a bloke sitting in a sound booth with his guitar playing, and this isn't that. This is like a much more expansive thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well, look out of my window. I see the morning cold and gray. I look out of my window. I see the morning cold and gray. I told you so many years ago. It's all gonna end up this way. Well, the fact.
Yeah, I mean, you get a real sense, don't you, in this of the the skills that he later deploys when he can't play and tour anymore in the way that he was, and he started to do film scores.
Yeah.
And there's much more of that understanding the different palette of sounds that are available to him when it's not just him and his band, when it's like a wider group of musicians. But was that a tear then? Yeah, I mean a great track, and quite interesting now with the next one, Too Much Pride. When
It's
sorry,
it is an uplifting moment now.
Yeah, and this is much more kind of like what you expect of him, isn't it? Bit of slide guitar, and this is the one that I thought really reminded me of Jimmy Nail in terms of how he delivers this.
Okay. There's one line in this and I think about the actual words of what he's saying in it. There's a line that says, "The upside is you have nothing to lose." Whereas most people would turn that around and be anyway. It's an uplifting beat for me, and the message is to listen. Listen.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Say good morning. This is your lucky day. Most of your problems, they're gonna slip away. Oh, I'm gonna help you. I can show you the way. So give me some time, my friend. Hear what I say. You got too much pride, too much pride. Drive you so crazy. You got too much pride. Take a look at the downside.
Yeah, I mean, I think this sums up, I guess for me, simultaneously what I think is really great about this album and really not great about this album.
Yeah.
So there are elements in this where the kind of the chord progressions and things seem there's some interesting stuff going on underneath the melody, and it's like, oh, I quite like what he's doing there, that bit of a clash.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like the bridge is like, it's a bit obvious what he did, and a little bit jolly, and it's kind of almost a bit of a letdown. I think it deserves a bit more, but
Listen. Come on. Yeah. Let's move on.
So Boom Boom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Rycooder. Here we go.
Yeah, well, I hadn't spotted the Rycooder influence on this, but yes, I put down about this. It's much more kind of like your typical Americana kind of sound. This belongs in a Midwestern bar, I think.
Sorry. Yes. No, it does. I distractions. I'm in the west of Ireland. And
So here we go. Boom Boom.
yes. Sorry about that.
Take a look. What's been going
I definitely feel that there's a bit of, you need to put your thumbs into your belt loops for this, don't you? There's a bit of that kind of like,
Absolutely.
and you know, I kind of, as I've got older, I've really grown to enjoy that kind of Americana sort of sound. When I was younger, I had no time for it at all. But as I've aged and mellowed, I think
Yeah.
I've really started to get into that, and there's something quite beguiling about it, isn't there? You know,
Yeah.
it's it kind of, you just sort of sink into it like a comfortable chair, and it just kind of just takes you along, which I really like.
Yeah. I'm glad. It's where I'm at. The brain. Yeah. No. If I really start talking about where I'm at, I think we'll lose the show because yes, I realize that there are many around me that still working hard, whereas I've got the opportunity to actually really enjoy things. And maybe I've looked too deeply into this. I know there's been a lot of negative comments made about it, but for me, it has so many the songwriting in it. The musicianship and the feeling, the actual feeling, to actually feel good to listen to music, knowing as well that it's an honest brokerage in terms of delivery, just pure
Yeah,
honesty, you know.
absolutely, absolutely. And you know, I think that one of the things that we see from musicians, rock stars of his generation,
Yeah,
is that there is an authenticity to who they are,
yeah,
and now there is very little of that. You know, now the majority of stuff is made in a factory somewhere, isn't it?
that's
You
that's
know,
pretty much putting the nail. Yeah, that's the nail on it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and you know, I think that because of that, and that was one of the things, you know, we mentioned earlier about the old grey whistle test. You know, one of the things that was lovely about that was that you got to see this, a real diverse breadth of talent of people. You know, so there would be, you know, one guy in his guitar, John Martin or whoever
John
playing.
Martin. Now there's another one of my
But,
heroes.
but equally, you'd get Rage Against the Machine, you know, which
Yes,
would be
yeah,
a completely different thing, equally authentic in a completely different way.
yeah.
And it doesn't mean you've got to like all of these things,
No,
but you can appreciate the artistry in all of them. And
yeah,
now, you know, all these people look the same, sound the same. They're all produced by
yeah.
Simon Cowell. And I saw a great interview with Noel Gallagher. As you know, I'm not a big fan
Yeah.
of Oasis,
But
where he said, you know, the problem is that the public don't know what they want. He said, you know, that and the way the music industry works now is that they kind of they do focus groups to identify what the public find attractive, and they produce music to fulfill that, rather than saying, here's a piece of music and put it out there. He said all of the great music, you know, there's no way that would ever have got produced if you'd asked the public what they wanted, because the public simply don't know.
yeah,
And I think that's it. You know, these guys are doing it for the artistry of doing it.
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's one of the other, and I haven't mentioned the name, but it also in terms of an actual talent and a much lost one is Rory Gallagher.
Yeah,
And there's another one that at some time it would be to pay tribute to the, you say it yourself, the artistry, the sheer talent. The I know for the next song coming up. For me again, I just regard this as pure genius, and I think the key words that I put to the next one is that here you're getting that songwriter, you're getting the composer, you're getting the lyricist, you're getting the vocalist, you're getting the guitarist, and you're getting the master slide guitarist.
you certainly are. So who? So you haven't mentioned this particular influence. Who's influenced the start of this? Do you think?
Help me with this one.
I'm pretty sure this is Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
So here we go. I Ain't the Fool.
dinner while you're talking away. Your theories are endless, your lips never sleep. No time for reflection, there's no tongue in your cheek. Oh no, I ain't the fool here.
I think again, you know, one of the things that I find really fascinating about this was not a massively commercially successful album.
That's
It's
true.
not an
No.
album that is particularly in the limelight, and yet when you listen to it, you can hear loads of things that loads of sound alikes, and you realize when you look at the dates, you realize that it's people that have been inspired by this song or this album, and they have then taken that and used that as the basis for some work
Very-
later. And I think that that's really interesting, isn't it? That it's almost like what you might say a best kept secret kind of thing, you know. And it has been an enjoyable thing to listen to this week.
Okay.
Could have done with better weather though to listen to it.
Okay. The sun is shining out here.
Yeah, well, it's been a bit on and off today, but it's not been a particularly good week weather-wise, and it kind of needs a bit of that kind of sultry summer sun, I think, for that Midwestern feel.
Do come west of Ireland. So
Well, I'll be on a plane shortly.
there you go.
So there she goes.
Mention the Irish connection as well. Don't
Oh, yeah.
forget, in terms of his own upbringing. There's an influence there.
Yeah,
Mother Ray.
yeah. So there she goes. A bit more again, master slide playing. You know, this is very soothing.
This is pure romance.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we go.
There she goes, the one that I love, one I've been waiting for, one I've been dreaming of. There she goes, but she'll never be mine. Wasted all of my chances, run clean out of town. There she goes with the wind in her hair and a smile on her face. She doesn't know what I'd give just for a moment to be in his place. Anyway, take a look. There she goes. Take a look.
We just been listening to 2 minutes of that. I mean, it's just like it just flows over you, doesn't it? Like a warm blanket.
Who doesn't like a warm blanket? Go on, stand up, everybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, a lovely, soothing, easy song to listen to, and it kind of the whole album is quite easy, isn't it? It's one of those things that you
It's soul food music.
Yeah, it keys in very nicely with the listener. There are plenty of albums that we've done on the show which have been, the you wouldn't necessarily like them the first time you heard them. You need a bit of familiarity with it to actually get anything out of it. And this is not one of those albums. This is quite easy to absorb on the first listen. So
There's the key word, absorb. It actually gets in under your, well, for me anyway. And the more I listen to the individual tracks, it does bring me, I mean, it brings me back to, the particular album, the Auberge. And I think the first real influence thing for me was the song that he wrote called Josephine. It's not on the album, but I think knowing the song Josephine and then coming to this album, this is where it stands out for me as my one of the top favorites.
Yeah, I can see that, and I did listen to some of his other songs this week as well, and he has got quite a distinctive style for the most part, hasn't he?
Yeah.
It's quite a relaxed sort of beat. It's very polished and professional sounding. I can't imagine that you'd ever listen to Chris Rea perform and think to yourself, well, I hope he gets this song right, because there's no doubt that he will, because clearly he's rehearsed it and it's very slick.
Yeah.
So the next one, I'm Ready.
I'm ready. This is where the tempo goes up again.
Yeah, so this, both the beat and the words of this made me think.
Shoes.
Sorry?
Red Shoes. I have
Yeah, so I think this is a song about motor racing.
Yes, you're right. Ferrari. Did you mention Ferrari earlier on?
Oh, yeah, maybe a Ferrari or two. So here we go. I'm Ready.
It is a road trip song.
I got my red shoes on, got my red gloves too. Made no decision, gonna see this one through. Too late, oh I can't stop now. Open the door. I'll get through somehow.
Yeah, I was just thinking actually, but the reason I was giggling was many years ago I was in Dublin on business, and I went to a pub, as you do when you're in Dublin, and I'd had a few drinks, and, but it was still quite early, and myself and the guy that had been in the pub with, we left, and there was a policeman standing in the street outside. And it's not a joke, although it could be misconstrued as a joke. And I said to the policeman, "It's the pub's just kicking everybody out. Where do we go?" And he said, "Well, you need to go to there if you want some crack." And I thought, because I was not familiar with the word crack as in fun, and I thought, well, I hear that they're quite relaxed in Dublin, but I didn't think that the police would be telling me where to go and buy drugs.
Spelling
Anyway.
different, though.
Anyway, the next song, I suggest we have a little bit of a listen to the opening of this, and then I'd like to discuss this with you,
Yeah.
because this I thought was really interesting. Let's have that again from the beginning. So, no, not Doctor and the Medics. So,
Stevie Ray Vaughan?
sorry,
Stevie Ray Vaughan vibe?
no. So, do you know what the 9th best-selling album of all time is? Oh, there's a bit of Spirit in the Sky in here.
Yeah.
The ninth best-selling album of all time by a female artist, and the best-selling female artist of this record sold 30 million copies. Was "Come On Over" by Shania Twain,
Okay.
and this is
Oh,
"Man, I Feel Like a Woman." Absolutely, she has lifted this song and obviously put her vocal and words over it, but it is basically exactly the same song, which I think is really amazing, because that went on to be like mega successful. Anyway, let's have a bit more.
Rock up on cold gray light. It pulls a chain and it pulls it tight. This ain't no lonesome well, that boy ain't faking. He bites the steel and he claws the ground. He pulls a can and he spins around. His eyes are raging and his burning lungs are steaming.
Anyway, hello, Shania.
Shania, there. But something that's whatever about the references. For me, as this starts, there's a little phrase. I'll call it an Irish phrase, but maybe it's wider than that. But it says, "Now we're sucking diesel."
Right.
Now we're really in the beat, as it were.
Yeah. My only criticism would be that I think this song has come too late in the album. I would have liked to have seen this earlier on.
Yeah, these last two are probably the better ones.
Yeah, and actually, although it's nice to have a good song to finish the album with, no, not a good song. It's nice to have a banger to finish the album with.
Yeah.
It would be nice not to load them all towards the back end of the album.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like there are periods during the album when it's kind of quite. Some of the tracks can be a little bit samey, I feel.
Well, there's a particular style. I think this came fairly soon after the, I think there was a little bit of tiredness in his life, as it were. But for me, I said at the beginning of this session that for me there's a progression through this. And it builds to a part of his own story, really. And I do agree. I accept sitting down and just having listened one after the other. There is that sense of sameness, but actually there isn't. If you take each,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Unpack it, and when you unpack it, boy, there are some gems to be had. But the last two, Black Dog definitely, and the one that we will round up on.
That's a fantastic comment. Yeah, he wishes he were born in Memphis, not Middlesbrough.
Probably. Yeah, not Middlesbrough. No, because Middlesbrough, isn't there something that he once said? Sort of, I think the only influence that he could have in Middlesbrough is rock, and yet there he was, looking. In his early 20s, again, I feel like you're reading, or I'm reading, story of his life, as it were, and I'm listening to it through his music. And
undoubtedly, very autobiographical.
Yeah. Sorry.
So here we go. Soft top, hard shoulder.
Yes.
It's almost as if it's about cars again, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. There are things like the words "mash your motor, man." Some asphalt stimulation, perhaps.
Absolutely. So here we go.
now. Let it run in overtime. Run till it breaks up, overheats and explodes. Pick up what's left of me, leave the rest of it way down that road. Stop top, hard shoulder. Stop top.
Yeah, I mean, great. I guess typical Chris Rea.
There's an influence there as well. Mark Knopfler.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, somebody said earlier, was it Andrew that said earlier? Definitely a hint of Dire Straits in some of his.
Yeah. Dare I go as far as Pink Floyd?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of that in there as well. But I do think there's obviously some strong kind of influences from bands at the time. But he's, his voice is so distinctive, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's no way you could confuse him with anyone else.
No. No. As I said, it's not one that hit the high notes as it were in terms of rock success. But I do think that as in terms of his output, I do think it's a for me, as I said, it has become a very personal album.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? I remember that, I did a show with Eric. I don't know, it must be a couple of years ago now, and I brought one of those albums for me that was like a really important album, and he, we played it and talked about it, and he said at the end of it, basically, it was fingernails on a blackboard. It was shit. And I just thought, oh, I don't want to hear that. And I think that the point is that these albums that mean something to us are intensely personal things, aren't they? And there's part of it's the music, part of it's the story that you have in your life that's going on. Part of it is the memories that it brings back. But I've really enjoyed this week. It's been a really interesting, good week for me.
Okay.
I love the fact that it's an artist that I know, but not an album that I know. It's something that it's been nice to reintroduce me to him, because I know a couple of his songs, and that's about it really. And now I've listened to a whole album at length, and sort of scratched below the surface, and I've really enjoyed the process of doing so. So. Thank you very much indeed. Yeah. And what a great title for the album as well.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope, as I said, it's Friday afternoon, 4 to 5. You make you talk about that chance to wind down. And for me, this is what boy, am I waiting for the rest of the evening.
So thank you so much. Next week, I'm joined by Madeline, my daughter, and we're going to do Rubber Soul by the Beatles, which will be nice because I'm a big Beatles fan, as everyone knows. Yeah. So until then, thank you all very much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Helen. Great choice of album. And until the next time, everybody, look